All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today we're exploring the world of nuclear physics.
Ooh, exciting.
It is. We'll be focusing on Lise Meitner,
Oh,
an
ow.
amazing physicist who helped crack the code of nuclear fission.
It's funny. It's not just the science that's fascinating. It's really her tenacity.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine, being a woman in a very male-dominated field in the early 20th century,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, being a Jewish scientist in Nazi Germany.
Talk about challenges.
It's a story of resilience and brilliance and just this passion for physics that couldn't be extinguished.
Absolutely. And to guide our exploration, we'll be using excerpts from a biography of Meitner.
Okay, sounds good.
So it's the 1930s. The atom is no longer just, this concept in textbooks.
Right.
Scientists are really trying to race to understand its building blocks.
Yeah.
And they're trying to unlock that incredible energy that's hidden within.
Yeah.
And that is where Lise Meitner enters the picture.
She was born in Vienna in 1878, and it was a time when women were essentially barred from universities.
Wow, so how did she even get started?
It was tough. Even as those barriers started to, kind of crumble a little, the prejudice was still there. Women in science were often, really sidelined. Their contributions were minimized.
Oh, I bet.
It was tough.
Yeah, how did she succeed in that kind of environment?
Well, she was just driven by this deep love for physics.
Yeah.
This thirst for knowledge that just couldn't be denied.
I love that.
She had a very supportive family, which was crucial, to kind of defy those social norms at the time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then there was Ludwig Boltzmann.
Oh, wow, okay.
He was a renowned physicist and a champion for women in science.
And he even fought, for women to attend the University of Graz, where he taught.
Yeah.
Soaking up knowledge from someone like Boltzmann must have been amazing.
His lectures, they ignited this fire in her.
Yeah, totally.
It really solidified her dedication to physics. So she earned her doctorate, and she became the first woman in Vienna to do so.
Wow.
And then she set her sights on Berlin, which was, the epicenter of physics at that time.
Of course, yeah.
And there she hoped to study with Max Planck.
Oh, the father of quantum theory.
Exactly.
But wasn't he initially kind of skeptical of women in science?
He was, and their first encounter really highlights those attitudes of the time.
Okay.
So Meitner, armed with her doctorate, approaches Planck, eager to learn.
Right.
And Planck, upon discovering she already had her doctorate, said, "But you already have a doctorate. What more could you possibly want?"
Oh, my goodness.
And Meitner, undeterred, simply replied, "I want to truly understand physics."
What a perfect Meitner response.
I know, right? Just so direct, focused, and passionate.
So what happened next? Did Planck relent?
Well, while he wasn't instantly convinced,
Right.
He did allow her to attend his lectures. Remember, this is a period of immense change, and those attitudes toward women in science were evolving, albeit slowly.
Right.
This is also where she met Otto Hahn.
Ooh, okay.
A brilliant chemist who would become her longtime collaborator.
Hahn and Meitner,
Yeah.
That's a duo for the ages.
For sure. It's more than just their groundbreaking research,
Yeah.
It's about them defying those norms and forging a partnership that really did change the course of science.
For sure.
It all started with radioactivity. Meitner was seeking lab space to continue her research.
Yeah.
And the director of the Chemistry Institute, well, he didn't have any to offer her.
Oh.
So instead, he introduced her to Hahn, who shared her interest in, radioactivity.
Okay.
And so began their collaboration. It lasted decades.
Wow.
And it started in the most unconventional setting.
Let me guess. Women weren't allowed in the labs.
Exactly. So she was relegated to a basement workshop.
No way.
Yeah, a carpentry workshop of all places to conduct her research. But even in a carpentry workshop, their synergy scientifically was undeniable.
You know what they say? Great minds think alike.
Right. So Hahn, he was the masterful experimentalist,
Oh, yeah.
right? And Meitner, with her deep theoretical understanding,
Yeah.
they just complemented each other perfectly.
That's awesome.
It was really a true partnership.
Yeah.
And they respected each other's strengths, really valued each other's input.
That's great.
And they shared a love for music, They would often whistle Beethoven's symphonies as they worked.
Oh, that's so cute.
I know, right? They were just driven by this pursuit of knowledge. And
Yeah.
they spent years, just delving into these mysteries of radioactive elements, especially those heavier than uranium.
Oh, so they were right at the forefront of this exciting, very new field, working alongside some of the biggest names in science.
Absolutely.
So who else was in this race to understand the atom?
Well, in the early 1930s, Enrico Fermi, an Italian physicist, began bombarding uranium with neutrons.
Okay.
And he believed that he was creating brand new elements. Interesting.
You know, those elusive transuranic elements.
Yeah.
And this, sparked this flurry of research across Europe.
Wow.
And Meitner, Hahn, and a chemist named Fritz Strassmann jumped into the fray.
Okay.
And let's not forget Irene Curie and Frederic Joliot in Paris.
Oh, yeah.
There was definitely some scientific rivalry in the air.
Oh, I bet.
For sure. So everyone is trying to, unravel the secrets of uranium, driven by that thirst for discovery and maybe a little bit of competition.
Exactly.
What were Meitner, Hahn, and Strassmann finding in their experiments?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Their experiments started yielding some very unexpected results, findings that really challenged their whole understanding of the atom.
I can't wait to hear about it.
And that's where we'll pick up next time.
So last time we left off with Meitner, Hahn, and Strassmann, they were hot on the trail of these transuranic elements.
They were, bombarding uranium with neutrons, just like Enrico Fermi.
Right, and expecting to create these heavier elements than uranium.
Exactly. But that's not what they found.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Well, instead, their experiments, they started yielding elements that simply shouldn't have been there.
Like what?
Well, for instance, they detected barium.
Barium? But isn't that much lighter than uranium?
It is. It's like finding a tiny seed in a pile of pumpkins.
Yeah. Okay, so these results, they must have thrown the entire scientific community for a loop.
Oh, absolutely. It was a frenzy. Scientists were working under this long-held assumption that atoms were essentially, indivisible.
Right.
Or at least that only tiny particles could be, chipped away during radioactive decay.
So this idea of an atom actually splitting apart, that was unheard of.
It was. It seemed almost inconceivable at the time. Imagine, trying to break a solid rock by throwing pebbles at it.
Right.
You might chip away a few fragments.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't expect to split the rock in half.
Right. Of course not.
And that was the mindset about atoms.
So how did Meitner and her colleagues handle these baffling findings?
They really struggled to reconcile their observations with the existing theories. It was like a classic case of, scientific blinders.
What do you mean?
Well, they were so focused on this idea of creating these heavier elements that they couldn't see the truly revolutionary nature of what they had stumbled upon.
It's amazing to think that a discovery of that magnitude could be hidden in plain sight.
I know, right?
Just because it didn't fit the accepted paradigm.
Exactly. It really highlights the importance of challenging those assumptions in science, being open to the unexpected.
Absolutely.
And there was one scientist, a German chemist named Ida Noddack.
Okay.
And she had actually suggested the possibility of the uranium nucleus splitting way back in 1934.
Wow, she was ahead of her time.
She was. But her ideas were largely dismissed at the time.
It just goes to show that sometimes even the most brilliant insights can get lost if they don't, align with the current thinking.
Exactly. But let's not forget the historical context.
Oh, right.
I mean, all of this is happening as the shadow of Nazi Germany is looming large.
Right. Meitner's Jewish heritage definitely put her in danger as Hitler's power was growing.
Right. In 1938, the annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany, well, it shattered any remaining semblance of safety for Meitner.
Wow.
She was now subject to those, Nazi racial laws.
That must have been terrifying.
It was. But thankfully, with the help of colleagues, like Niels Bohr, a giant in physics, Meitner managed to escape to Sweden.
Wow.
But imagine, having to leave behind everything, your home, your research, your colleagues, your whole life.
Yeah, to start over completely.
Yeah.
It's really a testament to her strength that she continued her scientific pursuits even while facing all of that turmoil.
Absolutely. Despite the upheaval, she actually maintained contact with Hahn and Strassmann through letters.
Oh, wow.
And they continued to, share data, discuss their puzzling results.
And this is where the famous, walk in the snow story comes in, right?
Exactly. Meitner was visiting her nephew.
Otto Frisch.
Yeah, also a physicist.
Right.
For Christmas in Sweden.
Okay.
And they were discussing Hahn's latest findings, the detection of barium in the uranium sample.
Yeah.
And they decided to take a walk in the snow to clear their heads.
It's hard to believe that a simple walk in the snow could lead to such a monumental breakthrough.
I know, it's amazing. Well, as they talked, the pieces started to fit together.
Fuck yeah.
They recalled Bohr's liquid drop model of the nucleus.
Okay.
It's a way of visualizing the nucleus as, this kind of wobbly drop of liquid.
So instead of thinking of the atom as this solid, unbreakable entity, they started to imagine it as something more fluid.
Yeah, more malleable.
Interesting.
And that shift in perspective was crucial.
Okay, why?
Well, they realized that, when the uranium nucleus absorbed a neutron, it became unstable, like an overfilled water balloon, ready to burst.
And just like an overfilled balloon, the uranium nucleus splits.
Yes, and it releases this burst of energy.
This is the moment that they crack the code.
Right.
The birth of nuclear fission as we know it.
Exactly.
I imagine, though, that excitement was tempered by the realization of what this meant for the world.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially with a world war looming on the horizon.
You're right. The implications of splitting the atom were immediately apparent.
Right.
And they extended far beyond just, theoretical physics.
Right, of course.
And that's actually where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive.
So we left off with that pivotal moment, that walk in the snow with Meitner and her nephew Otto Frisch.
Yeah.
They finally cracked the code of nuclear fission.
It's amazing, isn't it? Imagine the world in 1938, tensions rising, the drumbeat of war getting louder and louder.
Yeah.
And into this volatile atmosphere comes the discovery that the atom can be split.
Right.
Releasing a power unlike anything humankind had ever seen before.
It's a discovery that changed the course of history forever.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
So what happens next? Meitner and Frisch, they have this breakthrough, but they're in exile, separated from their colleagues back in Berlin.
Yeah. It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
But despite the distance, science marches on Hahn and Strassmann. They're still in Berlin, and they rush to publish their experimental findings.
When was that?
January of 1939.
Okay.
They detailed, the detection of barium in the uranium sample.
Right.
The undeniable evidence that uranium atoms were splitting.
But Meitner's name wasn't on that paper, was it?
Sadly, no, it wasn't.
Why not?
She was forced to flee Nazi Germany. And, associating with a Jewish scientist could have had very dire consequences for Hahn and Strassmann.
Of course, yeah. It was a dangerous time.
It was.
But Meitner and Frisch, they didn't let that silence them, did they?
Not at all. Just a month later, February 1939,
Okay.
they published their own paper.
Where?
In Nature.
Okay.
The prestigious journal.
Right.
And they laid out the theoretical explanation for nuclear fission, drawing on, Bohr's liquid drop model.
Right.
And introducing the term nuclear fission to the world.
So now everyone understands that atoms can be split, and that splitting releases this tremendous energy.
Right. The secret was out.
What happens next? How does this discovery move from scientific journals into, global politics and war?
Almost immediately, physicists around the world understood the implications.
Okay.
The most chilling, of course, was the potential for a chain reaction.
Oh, right.
You split one uranium atom, and it releases neutrons.
Yeah.
Those neutrons then hit other uranium atoms, causing them to split and release even more neutrons, and so on and so forth, creating a self-sustaining reaction.
Wow.
A cascade of atomic splitting, releasing colossal amounts of energy.
It's like a wildfire, but on an atomic scale.
It is. It's a terrifying thought.
Absolutely.
And remember, this is a time when the world is on the brink of war.
Right.
Leo Szilard, a Hungarian physicist, he had actually patented the concept of a chain reaction.
When was this?
Back in 1934.
Wow, okay.
And he was one of the first to recognize its potential, both for energy production and, weapons development.
So the race to build the atomic bomb begins. Fueled by the fear that Nazi Germany might develop this weapon first.
It was a race against time, shrouded in secrecy.
What about Meitner? I mean, she played such a pivotal role in unraveling the secrets of the atom.
Right.
What was her stance on this?
Well, she was faced with a real moral dilemma.
Right.
Should she participate in the creation of a weapon with the potential to, annihilate entire cities?
It's a tough question.
She was actually offered a position on the Manhattan Project.
Wow, the top-secret American effort to build the bomb?
And exactly.
Did she accept?
She refused.
Wow.
Meitner had witnessed the horrors of Nazi persecution firsthand.
Right.
She wanted nothing to do with creating a weapon of mass destruction.
What did she say?
She famously said, "I will have nothing to do with a bomb."
That's powerful.
It's a real testament to her character, her unwavering moral compass.
But sadly, her voice was ground out by the urgency of war.
Sadly, yes, the Manhattan Project went forward.
And of course, it culminated in those devastating bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945.
Yes, it's a tragic irony,
Yeah.
a discovery with the potential to illuminate the world,
Yeah,
to provide clean energy,
right.
instead becomes a harbinger of death.
So we're left with this reminder of the responsibility that comes with these scientific breakthroughs.
Absolutely, a responsibility that extends far beyond the laboratory.
What about Meitner's legacy? Did she receive the recognition she deserved for her work?
Well, in 1944, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to Otto Hahn for the discovery of nuclear fission.
But Meitner wasn't included.
No, she wasn't.
That's hard to hear, to be honest.
It was a profound injustice.
Yeah.
While Hahn's experimental work was crucial,
Of course.
Meitner's insights, both before and after her exile, were indispensable in truly understanding the process.
Do we know what she thought about it?
Well, she did acknowledge Hahn's contribution, of course. Yeah.
But she did express her disappointment, stating, Otto, Robert Frisch, and I contributed something not insignificant to the clarification of the process of uranium fission.
So was she forgotten by history?
Thankfully, no. In later years, she did receive numerous awards and accolades,
Oh, good.
including the Enrico Fermi Award in 1966, which she shared with Hahn and Strassman.
Okay.
And, perhaps the most fitting tribute is element 109 on the periodic table, Meitnerium.
Named in her honor.
Exactly.
It's a legacy that extends far beyond awards, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a testament to perseverance, intellectual curiosity, and just the courage to stand up for what's right.
Even in the face of unimaginable adversity.
Yeah, her story really resonates even today.
It does.
It reminds us that science is not just a collection of facts and formulas.
It's so much more than that.
It's a human endeavor,
driven by passion
shaped by circumstance.
and full of these profound moral implications. As we explore the frontiers of knowledge, we can't forget the responsibility that comes with unlocking the secrets of the universe.
That's a great takeaway.
So Lise Meitner's journey, a tale of brilliance and resilience, leaves us with this. The pursuit of knowledge, it demands not just intellectual prowess, but also an unwavering commitment to ethical considerations, even in the face of the unimaginable